Okay, so um, tonight we're going to discuss the introduction of the enterprise risk management. Okay, so the business cannot operate without the risk. So, in establishing a business or operating a business, so they are surrounded by so many risks. So, some of these risks can help us achieve our goals. Some of these risks can make the business go bankrupt or lose their assets. So a business ability to prosper in the face of risk at the same time as responding to unplanned events, either good or bad, is a prime indicator of its ability to compete. So in business, we do not just consider the potential income or the potential revenue. We have to consider also the risk surrounding the business. So it is true that by taking risk, we can earn more income, but a wise business will always venture into an investment that are that the risks are calculated. So we need to identify risks, assess the risks, evaluate, and decide whether to accept or not, uh, or eliminate the risk. So in today's businesses, the risk exposure of the business is becoming greater, more complex, diverse, and dynamic. So this has arisen in no small part from rapid changes in technology, such as the e-commerce, speed of communication, the globalization of business, and the fast rate of change within the markets. So some sources of risk can come from adoption or expansion strategies such as acquisition, investment in emerging markets, major organizational restructuring, outsourcing key processes, major capital investment projects, and developing significant new products. So, how many risks will your company possibly encounter? So, there is a recent review of risk management practices in 14 large global corporations revealed that by the end of 1990s, the range of risk that companies felt they needed to manage had vastly expanded and was continuing to grow in number. So, as a consequence of the diversity of risk, the risk management requires a broader approach. So, before, in managing the risks, so the response is mostly inadequate because of the silo based approach. So, every risk is uh, thought of as an independent risk and do not and not related to other risks. When in reality, some of the risk or most of the risk are interdependent or interrelated. Okay, so for example, the um, risk from natural calamities like fire and earthquake can also cause financial risk to the business. Reputational risk, such as a bad publicity, does not only cause reputational risk but will also cause financial losses due to lost customers. So, in short, the risk must be managed um, with the thinking that they are interdependent and must find the source of those risks. The discipline of ERM, sometimes referred to as the strategic business risk management, is seen as more robust method of managing risk, an opportunity, and an answer to these business pressures. So when we talk about risk, so there are two types of risk. So the upside risk, so also call them opportunities. So these are the risks that can help the management or that can help the business attain its goals, or it can facilitate in the faster achievement of its goals and uh, mission. Whereas the downside risk, or also known as the threats, so these are the potential events or potential circumstances that the management or the business cannot attain its goals and mission. ERM is designed to improve the business performance. It is a relatively new approach whereby the risks are managed in coordinated and integrated way across an entire business. Okay, so the all overall risk. So not only from the financial, the operational risk, so we also consider the risk even outside the organization, such as economic risk, market risk, and so on. So business growth through risk taking. So it is thought not possible to create a business that doesn't take risk. So all businesses, okay, so just like all investments, uh, they all have risks. The end result of successful strategic directions must be capacity to take a greater risk, for this is the only way to improve entrepreneurial performance. So in finance, we have a saying that um, the higher the risk, the higher the returns, or in vice versa, the higher the returns, the higher the risk. So in short, if we want to achieve growth or to gain more income, more returns, then we should be prepared to take more risk. And when you say prepared to take more risks, then we should be able to manage those risks. Businesses must be able to choose rationally among the risk taking courses of action rather than plunge into uncertainty on the basis of a hunch, gut feel, hearsay, or experience, no matter how carefully quantified. So we're not only planning for the growth opportunities or for strategies for growth, but we must also consider how to manage or calculate the risk. Risk and opportunity. So in risk management, so as I mentioned a while ago, so it is composed of upside, known as opportunities, and downside risk, known as threats, at the heart of business growth and wealth creation. Risk and opportunity management must receive equal attention, and it is important for the boards to choose the right balance. So, risk management is about controlling risk as far as possible to enable a business to maximize its opportunities. So, we're trying to control the negative or the downside risk or possibly eliminate those risks. At the same time, we're trying to maximize our opportunities. So, what is the role of the board in the uh, establishment of the enterprise risk management? So, number one, the board must simultaneously be entrepreneurial and drive the business forward while keeping it under prudent control. Second, the board is required to be sufficiently knowledgeable about the workings of the company and answerable for its actions, and yet to stand back from the day to day management and retain an objective, longer term view. Third, the board must be sensitive to the short term, local issues, and yet be informed of the broader trends and competition, often of an international nature. And fourth, The board is expected to be focused on the commercial needs of the business while acting responsibly towards its employees, business partners, and society as a whole. So, when something goes wrong, as inevitably it does, board members will be held accountable. So, there are four main functions of the board. So, we have the policy formulation, the strategic thinking, supervisory management, and accountability. So, in the risk up and opportunity management, so the board is accountable to the company, to owners or the shareholders, to the different government regulators, to legislators, and to other stakeholders. In the policy formulation, so the business must be able to create its vision and mission, set the values, develop the culture in the company, and lastly is to monitor the environment. So after formulating the policies, then uh, the board should come up with the strategies. So by positioning in the changing markets, setting the corporate direction, reviewing and deciding the key resources, and deciding the implementation process. So the strategic thinking is a long-term direction of the business, while in the short term or the operations review cycle, so the function of the board is that of a supervisory management. So under the supervisory management, so you have oversight management, monitoring budgetary control, reviewing key business results, and ensuring the business capability. So it is the risk and opportunity management is a cycle. So going back to the from the governance review cycle, policy review cycle, strategy review cycle, and operations review cycle. The primary business objective is the shareholder wealth maximization. So that is to maximize the wealth of its shareholders. To satisfy the primary objective, so they have to address all aspects of the business plan. So such as strategic plan, the research and development, financing, marketing plan, management and organization, risk management process, operations plan, forecast and financial data, and business controls. So, what are the benefits if we implement the enterprise risk management? So, first benefit is that we will be able to align our risk appetite and the strategy. So, risk appetite is the degree of risk on a broad based level that a business is willing to accept in pursuit of its objectives. So, there's already a match of how far the business can go or how far the business is willing to gain or to achieve and the surrounding risk that needs to be managed or what is the acceptable risk for the business. Second benefit is it can minimize the operational surprises and losses. So businesses have the enhanced capability to identify potential risk events, assess the risk, and establish responses, so thereby reducing the occurrence of unpleasant surprises and associated costs or losses. So it's like even if the problem is not yet happening or it has the potential to happen, but we are already thinking of an action plan or a response to that event in case it will happen. So, for example, if there's a fire, Of course, let's say we are preparing for fire, so we are uh, conducting the fire drill every year. So when the time comes that a fire would eventually broke out, so the employees are prepared, and probably the assets are already insured. So therefore, uh, the impact of that preparedness will decrease the possible losses compared to losses, or compared um, to an incident where we are not prepared. So although fire is, it can happen, can potentially happen, but if we are not prepared for it, okay, so no matter how the chances of it occurring, so if we are not prepared and then eventually it will happen, then we will encounter, or we will incur, large amount of losses. Third benefit is it will enhance the risk response decisions. So the ERM provides the rigor to identify and select among alternative risk responses. So we can either remove the risk if it's possible. If not, then probably we can reduce the risk, or we can transfer the risk, or accept if it is tolerable, or the risk is very minimal. Another benefit are the resources. So a clear understanding of the risks facing a business can enhance the effective direction and the use of management time and the business resources to manage the risk. So it will also increase the chances for um, increases the chances for the success of the business. Identify and manage the cross enterprise risks. So one of the best benefit of the enterprise risk management are are optimized when an enterprise-wide approach is adopted. So we are managing it um, company-wide. So the risks are adopted, integrating the disparate approaches to risk management within a company. So another benefit is it can link growth, risk, and return. So ERM provides an enhanced ability to identify and assess the risk and establish acceptable levels of risk relative to potential growth and achievement of objectives. So if the risks are in check, then it will give us more confidence in achieving the potential growth and objectives. Another benefit is it will rationalize the capital. So more robust information on risk exposure allows the management to more effectively assess the overall capital needs and improve the capital allocation. And lastly, by conducting or implementing the enterprise risk management, we will be able to seize opportunities. So, as I have discussed before, there are possibly risks, so which we call them upside risks, that we can take advantage of. So, the very process of identifying risks can stimulate thinking and generate opportunities as well as the threats. So, now let's discuss about the ERM framework. So, as mentioned, the board of directors has a role in the enterprise risk management. So, they are the oversight. So, they oversee the implementation of the ERM. So, and it will enhance the corporate governance. Second is to improve the internal control. Third is the implementation. So, in the implementation, we can hire or appoint somebody outside the organization. And of course, is the fourth risk management process. So it starts with the analysis of the risk, identifying, assessing, evaluating, planning, and overall management of risk. Then the sources of risk can either be from internal processes or inside the company or uh, in the business operating environment or outside the company. So such as the economy of the community, the technological trends, the market risk, social risk, the political environment. So all of those can affect the business operating. Okay, so in corporate governance, so it is an essential component because it provides the top-down monitoring and the management of risk. Two is internal control. So it is to accomplish, the aim is to accomplish this through the identification of and assessment of risk facing the business and responding to them to either remove or reduce them or where appropriate, transfer them to a third party where it is economic to do so. Third is implementation. So whichever route is selected, the parameters of any study have to be mapped, communicated, agreed so that the time frame, resources, costs, inputs, and deliverables are understood. So fourth, the risk management process. It is proposed here that the risk management process is broken down into six processes. So we start with analysis, identification, assessment, evaluation, planning, and lastly is the management. And last of the framework is the sources. So the source of the business risk emanates from two quarters. One is from the inside the business or within the business, and the other is from the environment within which it operates and over which it has no control. Okay, so we have discussed the enterprise risk management, its benefits, uh, the importance of why we need to implement the ERM, and lastly is we discuss the framework in how to implement the enterprise risk management. Okay, so I hope you have learned something tonight. So stay tuned for the upcoming episode. So we will discuss next the internal control and the risk management processes. So thank you for listening and have a great day.